Today's video is brought to you by Card Kingdom. And right now you can get this sweet Scoop Soldier sticker when you order over on cardkingdom.com. Just mention in your order notes that you want a Scoop Soldier sticker when you check out. Hey friends, it's Tomer, and here's another Commander Quickie. If you've played any amount of Commander, then chances are you've seen Cyclonic Rift in action and already know how good it is, but if you're not familiar with it, then here's a quick rundown. When overloaded for 7 mana, Cyclonic Rift is an asymmetrical, instant speed board wipe that bounces all your opponent's non-land permanents. Creatures, artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, Cyclonic Rift bounces them all at the most opportune moments while leaving your side of the battlefield untouched. And while rarely used, being able to cast Rift as a 2-mana targeted bounce spell can be clutch in certain situations, so it's a nice cherry on top of an already amazing board wipe. So yeah, Cyclonic Rift is an amazing card, and in my opinion, the best blue board wipe in the format. It's a generic good stuff card, fitting into any blue deck and requiring no building around to get tons of value out of it. But that being said, blue has some other sweet mass bounce spells that don't see much love due to them being stuck in Cyclonic Rift's shadow. And those are the cards we'll be talking about in this video. Here are 10 budget alternatives to Cyclonic Rift. So if you're looking for blue board wipes that are more thematic for your deck, don't want to spend $21 US on a single card, or are a hipster like me that tries to avoid playing with the most popular cards, then I've got you covered. First up, we've got Flood of Tears. Like Cyclonic Rift, Flood of Tears bounces non-land permanents, but it's symmetrical in sorcery speed. However, not only is Flood of Tears cheaper to cast, it comes with a big advantage. If you bounce 4 or more non-token permanents you control, you can put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Used this way, Flood of Tears is at worst a big tempo play, giving you a head start over your opponents in replaying your permanents after the board resets. But in the right deck, Flood of Tears isn't just a board reset, but even a ramp spell, letting you cheat out huge expensive haymakers like Void Winnower or Jin Kataxi's Core Augur. Or live the dream and drop down Omniscience, letting you cast the rest of the cards in your hand for free. Flood of Tears is a terrific inclusion in decks full of high converted mana cost spells like Jodah Archmage Eternal and Braid's Conjurer Adept. Next we've got Devastation Tide, one of my favorite board wipes in the entire format. Like Cyclonic Rift, it bounces all non-land permanents, but it's symmetrical in sorcery speed if you cast it normally. But the real value in this card lies in its miracle cost. If Devastation Tide is the first card you drew this turn, you can immediately cast it for just 2 mana. Note that you can cast it for its miracle cost on any turn, not just your own, so if it's the first card you drew on an opponent's turn, then you can cast it at instant speed. A 2 mana instant speed board wipe is just insane. The trick to getting maximum value out of Devastation Tide is to run it in a deck that can consistently cast it for its amazing miracle cost. There are a ton of ways to put Devastation Tide on top of your library to cast it as a miracle, like Mystical Tutor and Mystic Sanctuary. Decks like Aminatu, the Fate Shifter, and Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, are great homes for this board wipe. Our next 2 board wipes are the perfect fit for blue heavy decks. First up is Engulf the Shore. Unlike Cyclonic Rift, Engulf the Shore is a symmetrical creature bounce, but its 4 converted mana cost is significantly lower than Rift's 7 CMC. Your lands must be primarily islands to properly use Engulf the Shore, but that's not an issue for mono blue decks. There may also be 1 or 2 creatures on the battlefield too large to bounce with Engulf the Shore, but it will always wash away the vast majority of creatures. Because it's just 4 mana and instant speed, I recommend running Engulf the Shore in just about every mono blue deck, even the ones already running Cyclonic Rift. It's super consistent and reliable. Scourge of Fleets is another criminally underplayed board wipe. Just like Engulf the Shore, Scourge's ability is keyed off the number of islands you control, so it needs to be in a mono blue or blue heavy deck to work properly. Unlike Engulf, however, Scourge of Fleets is an asymmetrical bounce, only bouncing your opponent's creatures while leaving yours alone. It also comes with a big 6/6 body. These attributes are already well worth its 7 CMC, but that's only the tip of its power. To best utilize Scourge of Fleets, we want to take advantage of the fact that its bounce ability is an enter the battlefield trigger staple to a creature. Decks that can bounce or blink Scourge like Thassa Deep Dwelling can repeatedly wipe the board of opposing creatures. Decks that can cheaply copy Scourge for less than 7 mana like Sakashima the Imposter can also repeatedly bounce our opponent's creatures for low mana costs. Next up is an old school option with Washout. Think of it as a mini Cyclonic Rift. It's asymmetrical if you choose a color that you don't have permanents of on the battlefield. It's way cheaper than Rift at only 4 mana instead of 7, but it's going to bounce less of your opponent's stuff on average and its sorcery speed. I've glossed over this card for years and only recently started playing with it, and I've been very impressed so far. Washout is cheap and flexible enough that it fits into most blue decks. However, for maximum shenanigans, it pairs nicely with the Blind Seer, which can temporarily turn permanents to color that you wish to bounce with Washout. Crush of Tentacles is yet another sorcery speed symmetrical board bounce available to us. This time, however, the sweet advantage it offers lies in its surge cost. If you cast another spell this turn, you can cast Crush for just 5 mana, and you get a bonus 8/8 Octopus token on the battlefield. An 8/8 creature is no joke, even in Commander, and it's especially threatening on an empty board. Decks that can consistently cast Crush of Tentacles for its surge cost will have a lot of fun with it. The best fit for Crush is a token deck like Brutaclad, Tackler, or Engineer, which can turn your smaller tokens into 8/8s during combat, or a sea monster tribal deck like Erexmithy's Slumbering Isle, where the Octopus token plays into tribal synergies. Evacuation is the classic blue mass bounce spell. Unlike Cyclonic Rift, it only bounces creatures and it's symmetrical, but it's significantly cheaper to cast, being only 5 mana instead of 7, and notably it's another spell that can be cast at instant speed. Being cheaper means it's easier to keep up mana for it to cast at a moment's notice, either to shut down an opponent's board of scary creatures or to save your own creatures from a board wipe. The decks that can take the best advantage of evacuations are the ones where you're actually wanting to bounce your own creatures. Decks that focus on creatures with powerful enter the battlefield triggers like Yarok the Desecrated and Brago King Eternal can use evacuation to bounce and reuse triggers from their creatures while simultaneously resetting your opponents. Profaner of the Dead is another niche creature bounce spell that most people sleep on. Profaner is a fantastic inclusion in all sorts of sacrifice decks, being an asymmetrical board wipe stapled onto a creature, costing very little mana, but requiring an additional cost of sacrificing a creature. There are a ton of different decks that can put Profaner of the Dead to great use. Threatened decks like Isova Dragonclaw can steal creatures and then sacrifice them to the Profaner for maximum value. Also, decks that have creatures that want to be sacrificed, like Marchesa the Black Rose, can use Profaner as a sack outlet that also bounces opposing creatures. Coastal Breach seems to me like Wizards' way of printing a fixed version of Cyclonic Rift. But Coastal Breach's advantage is the Undaunted keyword, making it significantly less expensive to cast than Rift. In a typical 4-player free-for-all Commander game, Coastal Breach will start off costing only 4 mana to cast, since you'll have 3 opponents lowering its cost. A 4 mana board reset is great value, especially when you compare it to staple board wipes at that casting cost like Wrath of God. Coastal Breach is generic enough that it fits into pretty much any blue deck looking for a budget-friendly, good stuff Cyclonic Rift alternative. How many Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents do you see in a typical Commander game? Pretty much none. Which means that 9 out of 10 games, Whelming Wave is just a straight up mass creature bounce spell for just 4 mana. However, Whelming Wave is the ultimate bounce spell in a specific archetype, Sea Monster Tribal, where it functions as an asymmetrical mass creature bounce spell that leaves your expensive sea monsters free to rampage across an emptied battlefield. And that wraps up this Commander Quickie. If there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future Quickie episode, then let me know in the comments section below. Until next time, friends, see ya! Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up with the latest and greatest, click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to check out similar videos, click on the links here and here.